Thanks, I'm almost exactly the same age as Ed Hussein, who wrote a noted book maybe 60 years for her called The Islamist. And it was about his time with the Islamist group Hizb ut-Tahrir. Actually, not a very long time, but it was an interesting book. The thing that really struck me about that, though, was when he described, as a kind of late teenager, he got involved with... Sorry, can you hear me now? So Ed Hussein got involved in Islamism as in the kind of late teens, with a couple of different organizations. But what struck me was his father was very disapproving of this. It wasn't something that he got from his family background at all. And his father said to him, that's politics. If you want politics, join the Labour Party. And I thought, no wonder he became an Islamist. I was around the same time, I was at the same age in the 90s. I was not at all interested in the Labour Party. This was very early New Labour, so some people were excited about it, but certainly not Ed Hussein and not me. My trajectory was, I was attracted to far left politics. He was attracted to Islamism. So that struck me as a point of connection. I was living in Scotland at the time, and it was around the same time that the Scottish devolution movement started, which would later become the independence movement, which is still there actually. First of the younger generations in Scotland are far more likely to say they're in favour of Scottish independence, even though the political reality of it has shifted in recent years. And I think it's basically because they look at British politics and they think, that's not us. Surely we can do better than that. And they imagine that somehow, I think mistakenly, they imagine that Scottish politics could be fundamentally different and better. Now, if you're English, you don't really have that option. You look at the Westminster politics and you think, yeah, that's not me, but I'm stuck with it. I think there's an exception to that, though. If you happen to be Muslim, you think, well, there's something different about me and people like me. We've got something that marks us out, that means we're not like those mainstream politicians. I think there's a strong push factor then away from mainstream politics. That means, just as for Ed Hussein in the 90s, young people today, if you're looking around for something to get excited about, maybe Islam's a bit more inspiring than the Labour Party. So that's the push factor. There's also a pull factor. I mean, at a time of kind of moral uncertainty, Islam is a religion with strong beliefs, something you can get your teeth into. It's also something which talks about social justice and has some grounding for that, a belief in a fairer society, a more equal society in which people are included. So I think those are the pull factors towards Islam. So both of those things I think are quite understandable, which is why I think it's such a mistake when non-Muslims say, well, Islam is fine, but you should be a moderate Muslim. I mean, who wants to be a moderate at anything, really? And the idea, especially if you're inspired by the deep moral values and the idea of social justice, well, you're not going to be inspired, moderate social values, moderate social justice. It really doesn't have an attraction. It's perfectly reasonable to want to be radical and passionate in your beliefs. And I think I can respect that in people who are attracted to Islam, even in a political sense, up to a point. But I think the mistake that right-wing critics of Islam and Islamists both have in common is that it exists as a right way of being a Muslim. And I think the danger is that critics of Islam tend to encourage that. The idea is that if you're a peace-loving Muslim, you're somehow doing it wrong. It obviously seems to me a very counterproductive attitude to promote. So I think we have to recognize that Islam means different things to different people. And Muhammad Amin has spelled out the distinction between the religion and the politics. But even the politics, to some extent, will mean different things to different people. It's not all about violence. And I think if you want to flirt with radical politics, that's not necessarily a bad thing. So it's not for non-Muslims to tell Muslims how to do religion, but nor is it for Islamists to kind of corner the market and say we're the only ones to rule. So I think we need to be a bit more tolerant about the idea of even the political Islam to some extent, while being robust in defense of rule of law and valuing freedom. Those are the positive things that I think the British political tradition still has to offer, even as decrepit as it is now. But I think the important thing is not to panic about it.
Okay, thank you. Interesting.